Hi, welcome back to the Creative China stage. I hope you had a nice tea break, as I did, and you have enjoyed some talks in other sessions. So we had a fascinating morning and afternoon discussion on a few issues in creating shared experiences and how we evolve the state of art in immersive technology. And there were lots of common topics we have discovered in the morning and earlier in the afternoon. How to make the experiences really social, how to make people feel more connected, and how to really use the magic of VR to improve people's lives, which is really how I got into virtual reality in 2005 in the first place. So a lot of these are actually very importantly underpinned by technology and innovation. And one of the companies that really have enjoyed success both internationally and in China is HTC, who is the company behind this machine here. And which is also a partner of my own AHRC project, IEEE, which we will have our presentation tomorrow. But for now, it's my great honor to have Alvin Graylin here, who is normally Beijing-based, but today is actually joining us from the US, so it's like 6 a.m. for him. So yeah, and I think he kind of had a late meeting yesterday as well, but really, really happy that he's here and really excited with the presentation, with the keynote he's about to give. And he's also going to join us later at 8 p.m. for our karaoke. So if you haven't signed up, please, here is the QR code. So a bit more about Mr. Graylin. He is the China president at HTC, leading all aspects of HTC's business in the region, including Vive VR, phone, content platform, partnership and investments, as well as the company's software business globally. He's also currently vice chairman of the Industry of Virtual Reality Alliance, president of the $18 billion, I don't say that kind of big numbers that often, $18 billion virtual reality venture capital alliance, and oversees the Vive X VR accelerators in Beijing, Shenzhen, and Tel Aviv. Mr. Graylin has over 28 years of management experience in the tech industry, including 20 years in Greater China. Prior to HTC, he was a serial entrepreneur, having founded 4 venture-backed startups and has held $100 million+ profit and loss roles at a number of public companies. Mr. Graylin received his master's degree in computer science from MIT, MBA from MIT's Sloan School, and a bachelor degree in electric engineering from the University of Washington, where he specialized in VR and AI. And he is fluent in Chinese, English, and Cantonese. And we actually just had a conversation in Mandarin. I didn't actually know he was that fluent in Mandarin, so it was a big surprise to me as well. So over to you, Alvin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that introduction, Sylvia. Very flattering. So I guess I'm the last speaker for today, so I will try to keep it interesting and give you guys a nice finish. I know we've been talking about creativity the entire day, so I wanted to share how I think creativity and VR is linked, and give you some life examples that are happening out there today. So in fact, the mission statement for HTC is to unleash human imagination from limitations of reality. So I think this is a little different than a lot of companies' vision statements, in the sense of we're really all about trying to bring good and creativity to the world and letting people be a better version of themselves. So using technology. So I hope that you can see some of that as we talk through this. And as Sylvia has mentioned, we do have a very big role in particular in China, where we really are leading the entire ecosystem and trying to increase the adoption rate of XR technology overall, and sharing a lot of technologies with a lot of other competitors or companies in the industry to ensure that the entire industry goes higher. So I actually come from a very creative background. I don't know if you were aware of, Sylvia, but both my parents are artists. So my dad is a painter and an art professor, and my mom was a ballerina and was a founder of 2 of Beijing, of the Shanghai and the Guangzhou Ballet School. So I actually have a little bit of creative genes, although I cannot dance and I cannot paint. So it's a very unfortunate. I've lost those genes. But before we get into some of the details, I wanted to kind of go back in history a little bit, and we see that really over the last 50 years or 40 years, every single decade, there's a new major trend in terms of a technology transition that changes our lives, right? From the PCs in the 90s to the web revolution in the PC in the 80s to the web revolution in the 90s to the mobile revolution in the 2000s. And then over the last 5-6 years, where VR is starting to come back again for the second time to into public awareness. And then I think now that we're really at this new at the beginning of a new decade with 2020, we're really actually getting into the XR revolution, where it's not just about a VR technology, it's really about the combination of VR and AR and MR coming together. And actually also that together with AI, with 5G, to create the next revolution that is going to be much longer than a 10-year span, because it's going to take probably 20 or 30 years for that to mature. And that probably will have the biggest impact in terms of, compared to all the other prior waves of technology, this one will probably have the most impact because it will have the most sustained impact and will have the biggest inclusion of all of our senses. So it could actually become our last form of communication with other devices and with other people. In fact, we're talking about creativity, and creativity and I guess art really started tens of thousands of years ago with cave paintings on essentially a 2D surface of a cave wall. And we've been very focused really on that kind of two-dimensional way of creating content for most of the history of this society. Going from paintings, from cave paintings to paintings on surfaces, to papyrus, to paper, photographs, video. Really, all of that has been very 2D focused. I think we're now very fortunate that we're getting to be able to add an extra dimension with XR, where now you're able to paint and design in 3D and be able to not just have a still environment, but a moving environment, and an environment that you're not just viewing, but actually actively participating in creating worlds for people to interact in. I think that's probably as beautiful a canvas, or as powerful a campus for creative people to express themselves as anything that's ever happened before. So we're very fortunate, I think, to all be alive at this time in the history of the world. If you look at kind of screen evolution over the last 100 years, really before around 120 years ago, there was no screens in our lives. Even though we're so surrounded by screens today, we feel like screens are just a given. But really, until 1895, until the Lumiere brothers came out with the first movie screen, we never had screens, right? So now we have been adding screens every couple dozen years into our lives, and it feels like we can't escape from it. We cannot leave it. And you would think at this trend, it would continue where we have a dozen screens in another 100 years. What I actually see is that it's going to go completely the opposite. Is that as time goes forward, all these screens that we are seeing right now will actually be replaced by the screens that will be on our head. So, over time, we will have less and less screens. I don't know why this animation is taking so long. Let me see if it comes. Yeah, let's try again. Ah, shoot. Okay. What you'll see is that all of these screens will actually start to meld together, and we'll go from HMDs to standalones, to more thin and light, to glasses, over to probably in the next decade or so to maybe contact lenses, and then maybe another decade we'll probably get into chips in our head where we again have no more screens. So in a way, we're going full circle back to where we've been for 99.9% of the history of people, where we haven't had any screens. So I think all of this, if you want to look at where things are going in the future, is probably the easiest way to do that is actually to look at sci-fi. And sci-fi has been kind of predicting all these things that we're seeing today, and it's kind of exciting that all of the technology, a lot of the technology that's been sci-fi, is actually now becoming reality. One of my favorite series that I was growing up was Star Trek, and they had something called the holodeck, where you walk into this room and you immediately become transformed into the space that you're supposed to go into. And in 2015, when we started to introduce the Vive with full room tracking, it was really the realization of this dream that had been around for decades, where essentially you walk into a space and boom, you can have full body motion in that space and interact with all the pieces without realizing you're in just the headset. And in this case, they're in a room. I mean, we do have technology like the VR caves that's been around for decades for design organizations, but those are millions of dollars to implement, whereas this is just hundreds of dollars. So I think one of the things that also been challenging for the industry, and then why hasn't it taken off? Why has it taken so long? Is that we've trained our population over the last several decades to use keyboards and to use mouse and to use touchscreens as their interface model, and to transform into a completely different model where you're going away from a 2D screen to a 3D environment, putting something in front of your face to something on your face is actually a very big change. But in a way, it's also very, I guess, powerful in terms of allowing us to use all of our natural senses. Everything from your hands to your eyes to getting full body motion. In fact, you can even do brain-computer interfaces or using a pen to design either on 2D or 3D surfaces. These are all technologies that are actually available today that allow creative people to be able to express themselves. Right? So, I think once people get used to the concept of putting something on their head, this will completely be unleashed. And this also allows, children of any age and even elderly to participate in a very natural way, because they will behave the same way that they used to in the 3D world. So I think that's actually quite exciting and quite liberating. Another thing I think that's been keeping the XR devices from being adopted is the shape and size. And a lot of people say it's, maybe the way, where this was a design from Givenchy a few years ago in terms of where they see XR devices going. And it's actually something that probably a lot of people would consider wearing. If you look at what's real technology that are coming out or coming out soon, are actually getting very close to that. If you look at the Nreal product on the top right, that product actually looks, and it's about the same shape and size as what you see with these designer products that are on concept before, as well as the concept Vive Proton product that we had talked about earlier this year. So I think a lot of the concerns in terms of size, weight, and convenience that people have had is going to go away in the very near term. We've been spending a lot of time in front of screens and using the screen as our major interaction model. So, just like what we're doing right now of having, continuous meetings and also maybe even our entertainment in VR. But, this new normal isn't necessarily the most effective way for us to communicate. And it does get tiring, right? We do get Zoom fatigue. It is a real thing. We really would like to get into more of the next normal, where it's about getting ourselves and our colleagues and our friends into a 3D environment where we can enjoy experiences together. Now, the video on the right is actually a concert that was in Fortnite. So it is in a 3D environment, but it was still played on a 2D screen, not in a VR headset. But we could actually take this type of an experience and move it to a 3D environment.
We had the crazy idea to try to pull off something that's never been done before. We wanted to throw a virtual music festival that would have multiple stages, artists performing live, both audio and video, from around the world. Without further ado, I want to introduce Nord from Stockholm, Sweden. And concurrently on 3 stages to prove that something like that can happen.
Moving up and down, side to side like a roller coaster.
And we also had the first full fashion show done inside our Vive Museum product. This is all part of the Vive XR screen, in case anybody hasn't seen this technology. But we've combined 5 different products into one suite to allow full interaction and creativity expression in the virtual space. But again, allowing anybody with just a PC or even a phone to join these events so that they can so that they can use their existing technology, but get a sense of what spatial computing is like. So, and in terms of movie making, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with, well, I'm sure a lot of people on this call is familiar with the Ready Player One movie and the book. So Steven Spielberg actually worked with us to use the Vive to actually design and direct the movie.
This is the Oasis, a whole virtual universe.
In the computer, and the great thing about that is that we could bring Steven in and he would put on the really high fidelity headset VR, and we could load up that environment and he could scout it virtually.
Oh, wow.
And of course, because he's a filmmaker, as soon as he would start walking around a location, he would start thinking about shots.
I needed to know where to put my camera. So they created an avatar for me that you never get to see. But my avatar had a virtual camera. I could either do frame grabs or I could do actual shots by walking through the virtual sets. I'm getting shots on a V-Cam in a V-World. This is crazy.
So there's actually a longer version of this video if you look on YouTube for Ready Player One and Vive. But we actually then even took the content of the 3D models of the movie and made 7 pieces of VR content that you can download on our store Viveport. So this, you know, the melding of the gaming and the VR and the movie making world is all coming together. And in fact, right now, if you look at the Mandalorian, which is a very popular series that's come out last year, their sets are actually all done essentially in a cave system using LED screens in the back and filmed live with the cave to be able to simulate any environment that they're filming in. So, you know, the gaming world, kind of the 3D environment world, and in fact, I think almost all major sci-fi and big production movies now are being done either with fully VR backgrounds or with some of these LED enhanced backgrounds. So, you know, the Lion King and John Wick and all these other Star Wars are all being done. So it's actually quite exciting, and it's going to create tons of 3D models that we can actually then reuse in fully interactive experiences. Even in theater and you know, in interactive face-to-face theater, people are actually taking VR together to do plays and allowing fully interactive experiences where, you know, they're physically touching things while they're in the headset in this environment. So this takes kind of the concept of theater to the next level. If you look at just earlier this year, we worked with Cannes Film Festival to do the first virtual version of the Cannes Film Festival, where 50 some odd movies were put into the Vive Museum product. And we did the same thing just actually a month ago or so with the Venice Film Festival.
威尼斯电影节线上虚拟展映场景。
So we're a little limited time. I'm going to speak quickly. And we've also brought in some, you know, big time artists from Marina Abramovich to Anish Kapoor, you know, to Jennifer, to Laurie Anderson, to bring in kind of the most famous artists and creators of our generation, and to be able to bring them into a new medium to express themselves with the Vive Arts program. So go in, look for Vive Arts and some of the content that was created by them. It's actually quite impressive what you know, current generation creators can do when you give them a new dimension to work in. We've also worked with some local Chinese creators from Chen Baoyang to Chen Guanxi to be able to do VR-related creative experiences. So, you know, at the end of the day, right now, we're really getting into a time where creativity and productivity are starting to compete. And in terms of STEM and design and math education, so which is all very important, but those are things that we will not be able to compete with AI on, right? If you look at what's going to happen in the near term, is all of the basic calculation type and basic productivity type jobs are going to be replaced and displaced by robotics or by AI. So, we really need to say, how can we improve the creativity side of our population, our youth, so that we can have something to differentiate ourselves from machines going forward. Now, we definitely still need to understand and appreciate the foundations behind the STEM type education. But I think it's something that is sometimes missing, particularly with Asian parents, is that they sometimes under educate on the art side and over educate on the STEM side. So I really like to see more balance with how we train and educate our children. In fact, we did a study specifically on this, taking grade school kids and giving them both a normal 2D platform to create versus a 3D platform to create, and then looking at their EEG scores to see how much creative stimulation they're getting. And then also having experts look at the creative results and look at their creative tendency scores using the Williams creativity scale. And it was significant in terms of both types of measurements to show there's innate extra creativity available when you give children an extra dimension to do their creative designs. And so after using VR, here's two examples of what the children created. On a 2D surface, they were all given essentially two circles to start with one with 3D tools, one with essentially pencil and coloring pens, and here's two different products that were created given the topic to them, right? So you can see. And even though I think that the left side is actually quite creative given what tools they have, it's amazing what a 10-year-old child can do on the right when they're given 3D tools to work with. And this is all done in a matter of less than 20 minutes. So the kids have to actually learn this tool and create something in this amount of time, which just shows the flexibility of our youth and the minds of children. So, essentially, I like to kind of end with a reminder that, I think if we're going to try to directly compete with AI on the core, calculating or memorization capability, we're going to lose. So what are things that are hard for AI that are, good for humans to do that we can continuously differentiate? And it's actually 5 characters that start with C, from creativity to enhancing our curiosity, enhancing our ability to focusing on our communication to other people, and to be able to allow us to collaborate and get other people to work together. And of course, expressing compassion for each other so that we can have a more humane society. I think these are things that AI will have a very, very tough time doing all of these things, whereas these are natural capabilities that are in all of us that we should cultivate. So, I guess I'd like to kind of leave you guys on a final note, which is, I'd really like us to all unleash the creativity that's in ourselves, in our children, in our colleagues, in our teammates. And, it's up to us as an industry to make this technology more available so that people can find and express themselves in an extra dimension. So I think we're out of time, and we're in the Q&A section. So I will swing it back to Sylvia to help facilitate that.
Thank you, Alvin. A big loud round of applause. Before Q&A, let me just use 1 minute to mention that now there is actually a session starting at Session Space on particle-based display technologies, which basically is a technology. Alvin, you probably want to hear about this as well. It's a technology where you can see and feel, you can see graphics display in 3D and feel it as well without using VR headsets or haptic devices. It's basically all in air, and it's quite a fascinating technology. And they're starting now in the Session Space. If you do want to hear that talk, please go there now, but otherwise stay here for a Q&A session. Please type your questions in Hopin, and Fiona will be directing them over here. But I have prepared a couple of questions. I actually have lots of burning questions, so yeah, I'm going to shoot now. So it's a very fascinating talk, and I think it goes really very much well with a lot of stuff we have talked about in Beyond Conference, for instance, virtual production, and for our own IEEE project, the sort of live theater, immersive theater experience. And, there are different definitions of immersive theater as well. And I think we definitely should spend some time afterwards talk about that. But a more kind of representative burning question, I guess, I think it's excellent you present some research work in the end as well, what is the impact on people using VR. And I think that's brilliant. So I guess here my first question is that do you think is maybe one or two burning research questions you think research as academics, we can actually help you in this space?
Well, I mean, I think we actually have a research lab that continuously work with research institutions. So if there are companies or there are institutions that would like to work with us on research, we've done elderly research, youth research, health research, vision research, so forth, and of course education related research. Please do contact us. But we're always looking for more data to understand the longitudinal impact of increasing either creativity or productivity or effectiveness or communication capabilities, all of these things in education. And we've done studies in all of these, as well as the ability to increase memory, to increase camaraderie between teammates. Really, I think as this technology becomes more and more embedded in our society, we really need to understand the long-term impacts of using it. And both from a psychological perspective as well as from a physiological perspective. If there are institutions that are doing such research, please get in touch with us. Just add me on LinkedIn, and then we can talk there.
Yeah, fantastic. I actually work with neuroscientists on exactly, this kind of topic, but that's for another time. Another burning question is about data protection. And as you all know that, at the moment, it's very much cheaper to get hold of a device like this than something like this. Obviously, there are sort of different tracking technologies as well. But one thing I think everybody's concerned about is actually Facebook is only able to sell devices at a really affordable price because they're actually also making money from our data. And what is HTC's agenda on this? Are you plan to do the same thing, or what exactly is the plan?
Yeah, so I mean, I think every company has their own business model, and we can't judge people in terms of what they do. But for HTC, we're not a social network. We're not going to farm people's data. This is why our product, you take into account just the cost of the goods, right? So the bill of materials on these products. If you look at what Facebook is doing on their business program, it's actually more than 2 times the price of their consumer product. I think it's about $800 per headset, plus $180 a year for service agreement, just to have for business, so that they're not farming your data. So that's probably more the right price. From a cost perspective, because they're definitely right now losing money on every device they sell. But I mean, they can afford it because they do have a cash cow on the other side of their company. So for us, we really want to make sure that we provide the best quality experience for users and the privacy that you need to be able to do whatever you need to do without invading either your security or your privacy. So this is why I think on the B2B side, a lot of companies do choose HTC to work with. And I do actually have these devices. So in addition to I do actually use the test the Quest, but I also have the Focus as well, and but we make a collection of different types of quality content from all the way from high-end PC VR content all the way to standalones. And we will have new products coming out in 2021 that I think that will be quite exciting for the industry. So do look out for those. And I think they will help to unleash that creativity inside you once you get into these new devices.
Fantastic. And I have another question, which is super related to the social interaction, because I actually, I'm leading this IEEE project, which is about UK-China partnership building. But then this year, unfortunately, we couldn't travel to China. So what I did is I actually tried to have a social session with the Engage platform with our partners in China. And Nikki Misha, I think him as well, was the one who was helping us organizing it. But I think one of the really tricky situations we ended up being is that I say something in Engage, and then 5 seconds later, my Chinese partner replied. So in terms of internet sort of infrastructure, is there any sort of plan or ways to, really compensate for this kind of network trafficking, or is it really a hard problem that you think might be? Yeah.
So the good news is that we are now partnered with Engage, and they are part of our Vive XR suite. I don't know if you're aware with that. So now we've actually rebranded it as Vive Sessions, and we've put servers in China as well as in the rest of the world to optimize that user experience. So now there's going to be a lot less delay, and users in China don't need to use a firewall to be able to access. Don't need to use a VPN to be able to go over the firewall. So there's a lot of things that we are trying to do to make all of the tools that are part of the XR suite completely accessible on a global basis with fast downloads as well as shorter latencies. So those are definitely a part of our plan, and we've already started to implement it. In fact, next week, I think you'll be happy to know that Engage will actually be releasing the iOS version. So now, even from a iPhone, you can you can actually access the content and be able to interact with people in this platform. So and it was actually already available in Android some time ago. So so now we're really creating this platform to allow full accessibility from any existing VR and non-VR platform, so that people can experience what it's like to interact in a 3D environment. So hopefully the next time we do this conference, it will be in a fully 3D environment, so that people can immerse themselves in an experience to the level that they have equipment to do.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, actually, I had a few experience on the Verbella platform where, like you have a 3D environment where you navigate with your desktop. And I actually think with, spatial sound, that actually is a really interesting way to, replace Zoom meetings, for instance. I think
exactly.
That's really...
Yeah. So Verbella is also one of our partners with XR Suite. So they're now called Vive Campus. And we have a fully Vive branded version of Verbella, which allows people around the world to access. So one good thing about XR Suite is you actually need one single account, and you can access all 5 apps together. So a single sign-on can go into it directly. In fact, we're adding deep link capability so you can jump between apps. So it really feels like one natural connection.
That's encouraging to know, and also to know that you're not actually using the data you then collect on me to, generate money. Because what I really don't want to be is, buying a product on the cheap, but actually selling myself at the same time. So it's really
yeah. So we're not selling advertising on any of these platforms. They're all done in a way where it's a tool, right? So it's kind of like the Microsoft Office for the VR generation.
Okay, great. I have actually questions coming in from the audience as well, and I think it's great to hear you talking about so much initiatives Vive is doing in the space of art. So here's a question about what HTC Vive does to support human/art and technology connections so as to level up the ground.
Yeah, so we actually have something called the Vive Arts program that's been around for a number of years now. So we've worked with everything from the Smithsonian to the Louvre to British Museum of Arts to the Tate. So I think dozens of museums and dozens of famous artists and galleries around the world we've been working with to take that content and make it accessible in VR. Right. So this is something that if you're interested, contact us, and I'll put you in touch with the Vive Arts folks who can evaluate your projects.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we have Maria Rakusanova. I think she works for the Vive Art in London as well. We've been collaborating with some projects. Okay. Yeah.
So if you're already familiar with them, you can feel free to direct it directly to the appropriate folks.
Yeah. So another really interesting question. What lessons can European and US immersive developers learn from their Chinese counterparts? This is from Sam.
I think it's really about learning from each other. Every society, every region has their different creative styles and histories. And so, I think it's really more about not learning from each other, but really more about sharing with each other. And the more interactions that we have to break down the barriers that are between the societies, I think that the more we can learn from what each other is doing, and naturally the benefits will come. And you know, I think if you look at what the Silk Road did with art and trade back in, you know, the 1000, you know, I guess 1000 to 1020 or 1200, you know, kind of the few hundred years where that really started, there was a lot of interchange between the European community and the Asian community in terms of arts, technology, you know, currencies, so forth, trade, of course. So I think with that same type of things should happen again, where, you know, there's been too many barriers. Maybe there are still some language barriers, but I think if people make an effort, you know, there are plenty of folks that can speak decent English in China, and you know, you can still communicate in your natural tongue. But there's a very high willingness, I think, to work across cultures and across regions from people from both sides. So let's really just, you know, make an effort to go find that community and interact with them, and I think we will naturally learn all the things we want to.
Thanks. I think that's a really brilliant way to actually wrap up today's session, you know, because I really feel that you know, you're talking about making an effort to make connection, and thanks a lot for making this effort, getting up at 6 a.m. after a really, you know, busy evening to come here and to interact with us. And I think we learned so much, and I think you're going to have lots of LinkedIn requests from everybody, and also lots of probably WeChat messages from myself as well. And I think, you know, this is a really good time to really wrap up really about, you know, what you mentioned about. This is really about the opportunity for us to learn from each other. And this is such a brilliant time because VR is a technology that connects everyone. And I think UK and China should really be working together, leading this kind of connection between the East and West. So on that note, thank you very much, Alvin. And yeah, hope to catch up with you sometime soon.
Yes, and thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, you know, joining, and look forward to seeing you in the karaoke room.
Yes, later, karaoke. Don't forget to sign up. Alvin will be there as well. And yes, hopefully see you at 8 o'clock, whatever the time in the US will be. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.